Me real quick. Welcome, everyone. All right. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches, or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you've not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please note that we'll be recording the meeting. Your video and all your contributions may be used for club marketing purposes. Please welcome our club president, Mr. Graham Cairns.
Yay! Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, wherever you are. I sound a bit like Truman saying that. That is Truman, the movie, not Truman, the president. Welcome to this meeting of online presenters. I have another commitment today, so I can't stay for the meeting, which is a real pity because I would look forward to this. But unfortunately, needs must, and the devil drives and all that sort of stuff. But I did want to be here to begin this meeting and to give you an official welcome as president. It is good to see some guests here today. It is great to see so many members. We have an interesting year coming up ahead, and as you may know, we held a meeting last week at which we chewed the fat, kicked the can down the road, did all the cliches, but we worked out what we wanted to see for this club for the coming year. And I'm really excited about the prospects for this year, and I'm really excited about you leading us on that journey, because hey, the job of president is to just stand back and let you lead and assist where required. So thank you everyone for coming along today. I just wanted to welcome you to the 2023-24 Toastmasters year and to the 2023-24 online presenters Toastmasters year, and I'll see you all next week. And in that note, I hand control of the meeting to our Toastmaster of the day, David Carr. Yay, David, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Graham. Glad you were able to stop by. So before we get into the main business of the meeting, we have a tip of the day format that we try to work in. We're trying to have somebody present either, it can be a technology tip, something related to online meetings or a presentation technology in general, or it can also be a leadership type tip. And so leading us in that today is going to be Kathirka. And this will be for 3 to 5 minutes. Probably could give her a little bit longer if we needed to, but if you could set the times for 3 to 5 minutes. Kathirka, what do you have for us?
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. It's wonderful to be here. I'm Ritika Devi Venkatam. I'm from South India, where the place lies between the meadows and plateaus and hills with rich of natural resources. Today, as a tip of the day, I would like to share a few details about the business, leadership, and technology, which is mixed together these days. So there is no leadership technology which is separated, but instead it got integrated. So let's get into the tip of the day. For the past few months, we have been seeing greater traction in every industry vertical in scale, adopting the spider AI. And I think we know or we have heard of generative AI, where the related applications and tools are becoming highly valued, which is forcing all these organizations like the onrush achieving the giddy heights of success. What is happening with that? There are laws.
You muted yourself, Kritika.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, it happened again.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. There has been a lot of startups and organizations that create productivity tools, and they are hitting the market, making them to be successful. A statistic says around 3,700 Gen AI tools has been created since February to May, since the release of ChatGPT in November 2022. And the spike is going to actually double by mid-year. So what is this so captivating? What is happening here? And why are we so interested? In March 2023, OpenAI released GPT-4 LLM with improved capabilities. In May 2023, Google powered its generative AI capabilities with a breakthrough in the LLM using Palm 2 for its chatbot brand. Describing all this, like the building AI applications and its learning is based on something called foundation models, which is a deep learning neural network that is capable of handling extremely large amount of data, and it could also handle unstructured data, performing at a higher rate, performing more than one task as well. Assessing this impact, like the potential economic impact, also finds significance at this stage, and it's also attractive because there is going to be $2.6 trillion, which is going to be a revenue that is getting generated because of this AI for 63 generative AI use cases spanning across 16 business functions. Saying that visually revolutionizing generative AI is like saying photograph, light, and drawing is no more separated. Let's have a look into the background. A quick share of my screen that shows you what is happening here. Yeah, if you could see, this is one of the tools that generates art. Similarly, I would like to share one more screen showing us the actual, picture which is getting generated, which has got generated using Canva. And this is a small video I would like to play around. If there is time, I would also try to show you this video where all these photos are being generated by Gen AI.
We're only seeing your file directory.
Okay. Let me just quickly share it if we're not able to see that. Yeah, all these photos were generated performing different styles to give you a visually compelling attribute or an experience. So to have a short look into this, in February 2023, a generative AI generated image has won the photo contest, cheating the judges. So now we understand the complexity involved in the copyrights, authenticity, legal liability, many more, apart from assessing its economic potential as well. Even though we have all these pitfalls and boom, why does this generative AI becomes so important is its own potential that we need to still untap with many other different use cases and applications in the coming years. So this is about the tip of the day that I would like to share with you, saying the play potential and the motivation factor that is really needed for us in knowing the technology and becoming a leader in the technology vertical is quite important. Assessing and assessing to know all the importance of all these in the forthcoming years. Thank you. Over to you, Toastmaster David.
Wonderful. Can you stop the screen sharing, please? All right. Well, let us move ahead to the main part of our meeting. Now, as a Toastmaster of the day, I'm supposed to keep things organized, and I'll do my best. But I have folks to help me along the way, starting with our timer. Sarah, can you explain the role of timer for us, please?
Yes, as timer, I will be timing the speeches for tonight, as well as table topics and the evaluations. For speeches, there will be 5 to 7 minutes. At 5 minutes, you will see the green light. At 6 minutes, the yellow light. And at 7 minutes, the red light, and you have 30 seconds to complete. For table topics, it'll be 1.5, 1 minute, green light, 1.5 yellow light, and 2 minutes red light. And for the evaluations, it will be 2 minutes for green light, 2.5 minutes for red light, and 3 minutes. 2.5 minutes for yellow and 3 minutes for red. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. And I should announce a slight change in plans. For Louise's speech, our evaluator does not appear to be here, though she was on the list, signed up on the agenda. So we will do a round robin evaluation of Louise, who is practicing a contest speech when we get to that point. So, but back to roles, we also have Evie doubling as a counter and grammarian, unless that's changed in the last few minutes. Evie, can you explain those roles and what's going on there?
Absolutely. Both of these roles are very relevant to our speaking habits. I particularly like grammarian because sometimes we've got, we've got news that we want to bring in. We want to keep it relevant. We want to keep it fresh. And so today I've got a nice thematic word of the day, aplomb. Aplomb is the ultimate test for cool. Grace under pressure. Use aplomb to show great restraint under even the most trying circumstances. In retail, it's always a good idea to handle the angry customers with aplomb. Aplomb is grace under pressure, and that is the word of the day. I will also be watching, listening, that is, for interesting uses of grammar, and I'll report on those after the meeting. My counter role is one that I always get continually pinged for, so I figured it was finally time for me to take that role onto myself. Every time you say ahs or ums or hms or weird hesitations, or I'm not judging, they're not weird, but they're hesitations. I'll point them out. I'll report on that at the end of the meeting. It's always good to keep track of that and try to minimize those in our speech to be less distracting. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. So 2 good roles there. Let's see. We usually have a watcher for this meeting, and we're sort of hemorrhaging roles today.
Karthika is going to do the watcher role.
Okay.
She has kindly agreed.
All right. So wonderful. Karthika, can you explain what you'll be watching for?
Oh, sure. So today I'll be taking a virtual sojourn, connecting with you all for the next 1 hour, experiencing joy and cheer together. So I'll be watching you all through my Google lenses and giving you the report by the end of the meeting. Over to you, Toastmaster David.
All right, wonderful. And let's see. I don't believe we have a chat monitor either. We should be able to soldier on without that.
Jim is doing it.
I'm
Jim
the
is
chat
doing it.
monitor.
Okay, hey, Chatty Jim.
Yep.
What goes on in the chat? Why do we need a chat monitor?
Ooh, well, I don't know that we need a chat monitor per se, but it's a nice role. I'm happy to provide the assistance that I can. I'm going to be basically doing two things. One, I'll be monitoring the chat as it goes by, as everybody types something in. But basically, I'm going to be alerting David as the Toastmaster if there's anything that shows up in the chat that he should know about. That way he doesn't have to keep an eye on it the entire time. Mostly, though, I'm going to be summarizing what's in the chat at the end of the meeting so that people, if they missed anything of importance, that I can tell them to be sure to save the chat and to go back and look at it and that sort of thing. So that's basically it. I'm just keeping an eye on what goes on in the chat room. David?
All right. One more role player is our vote counter for the evening, is our former president, Andrew Byrne. Andy, can you explain what you'll be counting votes for?
We have 3 segments of our meeting. Those segments are the prepared speeches, the impromptu speeches or table topics, and the evaluations. At the end of each segment of competition, you can send me directly on the direct messaging in the chat room your private message to me saying what your thoughts were, who did the best job of that role, that segment. And I'll report it out later in the evening.
All right. Well, with that, I think the heat is on. It's time for our meeting. And the theme is summer, but also apparently the Earth had its hottest day overall on record ever, or as far as the scientists can figure out ever. So that is possibly not a good thing, but so far we're not burned to a crisp just yet. We do have 2 wonderful speakers this evening. Anupama visited with us. She was somebody who was interested in competing in our webinar contest some time ago. And she got cruelly passed over, and yet she was a good sport about it. She came, she served as a backup in case anybody didn't show up, but then they all showed up. And then she said, "Can I come back?" So we've used her, we've abused her, and now we get to learn from her. She is here. She does have a Pathways project that she is working through. This is Engaging Humor Level 2, Learning Your Style, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring, specifically. And this is The Power of Mentoring, is her speech title. The Power of Mentoring for 5 to 7 minutes. Anupama.
Thank you.
Anupama, sorry. I got to work on it.
Let me start my screen share. So just give me a moment. All right. Can you see my screen? The correct screen. Can you see my slideshow screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So the purpose of this project, as David said, is for the member to clearly define how Toastmasters envisions mentoring. I went to Toastmasters International website and I found these slides. I said, why not use it? So let's continue and see why mentoring is important for Toastmasters. The reason I'm here is someone called Jim Barber mentioned she could come back as a guest speaker. I said, why not? So what is a mentor? A mentor takes a personal interest and serves as a role model, coach and confidant, offers knowledge. I don't know about you, but I don't like it when someone reads the slides like I just did. If you know me, that is really not my style. So what is my style? I love colorful presentations with lots of pictures, and storytelling is part of how I like to share insights with others during any presentation of mine. And guess what? This is not going to be any different. How many of you recognize this place? Put in the chat if you know where this is. When the heat is on, you might want to check this out. Now you might be wondering, Anupama, what does your topic have to do with the tulip farm? I just wanted to welcome you today with open arms. Buckle up. We are going on a journey together, and we start from this Holland Ridge tulip farm in New Jersey. Let me introduce you to Anupama, a shy introvert. Have you ever listened to great speakers on stage and sat in the audience thinking, there is no way I can do that? That was me 4 years ago. I was at a crossroad in my life, in my 40s, and my 3 kids were older. I was ready to be more, do more, and become more. I wanted to make a bigger impact in the world and influence more people. In other words, I knew I need some help to move forward since I wanted to accelerate my path. I decided to go for my next certification in project management. Invested in a mentoring program, which opened up my eyes to possibilities, and I started dreaming big. I fell in love with the new version of me. If you are looking for a mentor, make sure they are successful. As you look for mentors, remember that we become like the people we admire and the role models we follow. For that reason, we should take care when determining who you ask to mentor you. Your values will be influenced by theirs. So you should have a few conversations to see if there is a match. If you intend to have a long-term mentoring relationship, if you're just looking for a short-term mentor, well, you can look for someone who is good at what they're doing, and it is what you would like to do. How do you know if you should mentor someone? Ask yourself, am I good at it? For us to be actively mentored, we must have time with people to ask questions and to learn from their answers. My greatest challenge is leading me. I needed someone who could hold me accountable and was able to meet with me to accomplish my goals. I met Roddy Galbraith at the Maxwell conference. He was speaking in front of thousands, and he told us he was willing and available to help us get selected to be on stage and speak in front of thousands. I was sitting in the audience and listening attentively. I made a note of it. Well, that was in March of 2019. I signed up for the mentorship program during that conference since I knew I was ready to invest in myself. And I started visiting various Toastmasters club, Rotary clubs, other organizations in person, virtually in 2019 and 2020. Remember I mentioned to you Roddy Galbraith and his call to action in 2019? I started being mentored by him personally. And I made it to the top 15 from the 48 semifinalists from 40,000 members who were trying to get there. I felt pretty good about it, but I wanted to continue to develop my speaking skills and make it to the Maxwell stage to speak in front of thousands. I was hungry and eager to learn. I wanted to be prepared for the next year. I leaned in and asked questions, and I mentored others. I mentored a student from FDU who spoke at the MetLife Stadium. I also decided that as a member of Toastmasters, I was going to compete in speech contests. And it has definitely expanded my network. I would not have met someone like Jim if I was not part of Toastmasters. I would not have met many of you if I was not part of Toastmasters. I was in front of the camera for the Staten Island TV, and recently I was on a radio show. I was sharing my journey, how I went from a shy introvert to a confident introvert. Let's look at the third quality of a mentor. A good mentor is a coach who makes a difference in people's lives. You might ask, what do I mean by a coach? In Kevin Hall's book, Aspire, he says, a coach is someone who carries a valued person from where they are to where they want to be. So if you had a coach, you knew you would end up at your desired destination. One who goes before and shows the way. My mentor is a difference maker, and it was my privilege to be on his Hall of Fame at his studio because I was someone he mentored and was able to get onto the stage. I have been mentoring others who are eager to learn and prepared with questions for me, and they are ready to be challenged and lead on. And I'm honored and privileged to be called a mentor, and I do not take it lightly. Here is Roddy with me on the Maxwell stage, and I made a choice to work with Roddy and improve my speaking skills. I read books to develop my communication skills, and it has got me here on an international stage in front of thousands. I'm continuing to learn, and I'm challenging others to lead on. Well, this is the time for you to take action. I challenge you to be a continuous learner. Add value to yourself so you can be more valuable to others. Back to the Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. You know, I don't want to get in the way of the evaluator being able to give feedback, but I have to say, I just spoke with a friend the other day who'd been very active in Toastmasters, who was excellent in Toastmasters, and who's no longer in Toastmasters because she thought these standard pathway speeches all come out sounding the same. And they are so boring to hear people just parrot back what they read in the Toastmasters instructional material. And this is proof that it doesn't have to be that way. Our second speaker for the evening, Luis Brabham, has taught, trained, and managed people around the world. He is a 3-time District 47 speech champion. Very good. I'm not saying he's as good as Jim Barber, but he's very good. This evening, Luis will dive into the psychology of competition. It's not a pathway speech, but it's called The Silver Weighs More. And he's asked for 5 to 7 minutes. The Silver Weighs More, Luis Brabham.
Have you ever waited for the big speech? My Little League baseball team gathered around our coach, waiting for the big speech. My Little League baseball team had a rough start. We were 0-4, lost 4 games, won 0. And then somehow we turned it around. We won the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and made the playoffs just by the skin of our teeth. We won our first playoff game, won our second playoff game, and then we were at the Little League World Series Championship Finals. And we lost. So my 9-year-old self was huddled around the coach who had been guiding us for 4 months, waiting for his inspiring words. And they were: second place, first losers. I never played baseball again. A few years later, there was an Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea, 1988. And the most heralded boxer in a generation was a young Floridian named Roy Jones Jr. He was 19 and he was dynamic. In fact, Muhammad Ali said that Roy Jones was the best boxer after me. Not small words from a man who himself was no stranger to Olympic glory. So Roy Jones Jr. moves past the first round, easy knockout win. Second round, easy. Third round, easy. Fourth fight, and he's in the gold medal match. All the cameras are around him. He is not only expected to win, he's expected to dominate. And his opponent, Park Si-hun, actually looks scared to face the great Roy Jones Jr. And I'm watching the fight on TV. Roy Jones Jr. out-hits, outlands, out-swags the Korean Park Si-hun in round 1, in round 2, in round 3. So when the fight is over, the tradition is that the referee holds up the hand of the champion. And you can imagine my surprise when, as Roy Jones Jr.'s arm is being held up, they announce the other guy's name, Park Si-hun, who had been dominated the entire fight by Roy Jones. Right after the fight, they interviewed Roy Jones and they asked him about his future. He said, "I'll never box again. Hurts too bad." We can imagine this 19-year-old with such talent, disappointment on the highest stage, feeling robbed by Korean judges in an Olympics in South Korean against an opponent from South Korea. Now, many years later, Roy Jones, in fact, did become a professional boxer. In fact, he dominated the middleweight division, the light heavyweight division, and the heavyweight division, becoming one of a very small number of people to win 3 weight classes simultaneously, meaning size was not a problem for Roy Jones Jr. He was a Superman who could beat bigger, stronger opponents and make it look easy. Now, well into his career, Roy Jones Jr. was 33, probably past his prime, and I'm watching this press conference where Roy Jones Jr. is humiliating his opponent before the fight. In fact, Roy Jones Jr. presented his opponent with a live chicken and put a gold medal around that live chicken. I'm still pretty young at this time, and I'm thinking, why is a phenomenon like Roy Jones Jr. demeaning himself in front of all the cameras? And then it hit me. Roy Jones Jr. wasn't fighting an opponent that the television cameras were focused on. He was still 19 years old. He was still in South Korea. He was still fighting for the respect that he never got in those 1988 Olympics, almost 15 years before. And every fight of his professional career, Roy Jones Jr. was fighting in 1988. He never got past it, and he used it as fuel to push him to the nickname Superman. And he lived up to it. Now, some years after that, you might remember a big election in 2000. Al Gore seemed like he'd been running for president forever. He was a representative, a senator, vice president for 8 years, and pretty much everyone expected that he would easily win the 2000 election. And so when the vote came out in Florida, and he lost by 500 votes in the pivotal swing state, you could see the energy crush. Leave Al Gore bitterly disappointed, preparing for a job his entire life. You know what they call the guy who comes in second in a presidential election? Mr. Gore. Months later, I saw him come out of a house. He hadn't been on camera in months. He had a bushy beard. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And I thought, this guy's done. We will never hear from him again. Of course, I missed Al Gore's second act. We underestimated him. Al Gore went on to win an Emmy for Current TV. He won an Oscar for a documentary called An Inconvenient Truth. The man won a Nobel Peace Prize for fighting to bring awareness for climate change, to perhaps save the entire planet and all the species on it. Now, I don't know what Al Gore would have done as president, but for coming in second, he did pretty well as former vice president. You know, scientists will tell you that gold weighs more than silver. They'll say that the atomic mass of gold means it's a denser metal. But I'm here to tell you they're wrong. Because after 30 years, I still have my silver medal from the Little League World Series. And I could tell you, the silver weighs more.
Right. Got chills. It's time to move on to the second portion of our meeting. We'll be back with evaluations in a little bit. But before we go to that, we have table topics. Chance for everybody present here, all the people crowding into this virtual room, beating down the doors wanting to get in. But everybody who is here is likely to be called for an impromptu speaking exercise, table topics. And leading that exercise will be our exercise master, Jim Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and you are absolutely correct. Since there are, not counting me, I'm immune, I believe there are 9 of us, there is a darned good chance that everybody is going to get called on for a table topics. And in fact, just to add some mystery to the whole thing, generally people, after they have a table topics question, they relax because they figured, okay, my duty is done. I just may surprise you and call on 10 people this evening, which means somebody's going to get called on twice. So you better start paying attention. Don't relax too far. Before we do that, would you please cast your votes for the better speaker of our 2 speakers this evening to Andy Byrne as a private chat message, please. If you would do that while we're doing table topics, I would appreciate it. And I have a note before we get started on the use of the word of the day, aplomb. And notice that I have used it. Aplomb was described as grace under pressure. Some of you may know that my wife's name is Grace. And so if you've ever experienced grace under pressure, you know that aplomb is not, grace under pressure is not a good definition of aplomb. So anyway, just wanted to put that on that little direction. The table topics tonight are generally philosophical in nature. There's not a correct answer. It's simply, I'm simply asking for your opinion on different things. So let's start. Gerthika described artificial intelligence and talked a little bit about AI. And of course, we've been hearing a lot about AI in the news and so on like that. So my first question is, AI, is it blessing or curse? AI, blessing or curse? And let's go to Gerthika.
Thank you, Jim Barber. I'm excited to speak about artificial intelligence for the first time on stage. Artificial intelligence, which is a broad umbrella that comprises of machine learning, deep learning, large language model, and many other statistical, mathematical things which is involved to create products or a life-saving aversion or a life-saving aversion during the day of the or during the moment of the day. It might be a warning, it might be a calling bell, or it might be a blessing. It all completely depends on the way that you use this two-edged sword, which we call it as a double-edged sword. Double-edged sword is highly dangerous and as well as a boon to human beings. How do we use it? Yes, we use it to safeguard somebody, and we also use it to destroy somebody. It's always there, tied up with our myth, the Hindu mythology, saying like Lord Vishnu is one who's saving, and Lord Shiva, one who kills the devil. Associating with that, yes, artificial intelligence is tied up with these both characters in mythology, where we dwell in the Kali Yuga, which is highly dangerous for us to safeguard the human beings and the human species altogether with this double-edged sword. Over to you, Jim Barber.
Great. Thank you, Kathika. Thank you. All right. Moving on. Let's go a little more philosophical. A simple question that may not have a simple answer. What makes you happy? What makes you happy? Marianne.
For me, that's an easy question. Since I've moved to Florida, I have been around my daughters and my 3 grandsons and 1 little granddaughter. And I have to say, family first, and it has been a miraculous change in my demeanor, just having these moments with them after not having them for several years. I love it here, and I have good neighbors. I have a nice house. I have all the things here, great, but like materialistically are great. But just being around those little kids is just hilarious, basically. They are the funniest things. They're crazy little people. Sometimes they're little monsters, but I love it all. And the first time we were together in this house was at Christmas time. We moved in on December 17th, and my son and his whole family came, and then all the other kids came too. So we still had boxes everywhere. It was chaotic, but it was heaven. Very happy here. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Marianne. All right. Marianne just described that things were chaotic there. Change leads us to our next question. Change is everywhere. AI is just one of the changes that's going on right now. The climate is changing, politics are changing, everything is changing, and people don't always like change. So let's find out how people feel about that personally. How do you like change? Do you like it or do you dread it? Andy Byrne.
Thank you very much, Jim. Change is a very important question. There are 2 things that people say that never changes. First is change, and growth never changes in time. And I think that that's true. No matter how much you believe that things are stable and not chaotic, change is there to surprise you. The longer you live, the more change you see. Who would have ever imagined all the changes that we've seen in our time? I've lived through the introduction of Apple products such as the iPad, the iPod, the Mac, and finally got to see the Apple Pro Vision. That was a real eye-opener. But there are other changes. Going into space by private space people, such as Blue Origin or SpaceX. There are other changes that are constantly taking place. The question is, which changes are you going to adopt and embrace, and which changes are you going to run away from? AI is one of those changes that I'm embracing. I've used the AI features in Canva and made my presentations very quickly. I've been asked to do a presentation in another club with only 20 minutes or so before the club met. I went into AI to get an idea of what I might talk about, and it gave me a whole speech from which I developed my own speech. So these are things that are very important, very useful, and I think we will all find our comfort zone in AI and other new technologies as we move forward.
Thank you, Andy. All right. It is a truism, basically, that people say that honesty is the best policy. But like many other sayings, is it really true? Is honesty the best policy? Always the best policy? Evie.
Oh man, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because clearly if you're in any kind of relationship with a person, whether it be a romantic relationship or a friendship, you don't want to lie to someone. I think the line lies somewhere else. I think honesty is the best policy, yes, but you know how there's a difference between brutal honesty and actually there's not. There's no difference between brutal honesty and just being brutal. Honesty is honesty. It's how you deliver the message that really counts, I think. Because you can deliver it with kindness, or you can choose not to. You cannot have the inner resources to. You cannot have the knowledge of how. And that's when problems happen. Because lying, if you lean on lying, it's not going to end well. The truth is always going to out. So yes, I would say honesty is the best policy, but it's not the only policy that matters there. It's not that the only policy that matters in that moment. That is kindness. And that's really as much as I can possibly say about that. Thank you.
I think that said it all. Thank you, Evie. Alrighty, let's see. Suppose they were going to make a movie or write a book, either one, but I kind of like the movie idea. Suppose they were going to make a movie of your life. Would it be a comedy, a drama, a tragedy, or what? What would the story of your life be? David Carr.
A farce, I think, a complete ridiculous slapstick, never-ending laugh fest, probably for everybody except me, being stuck as the butt of the joke, not understanding what the joke is, not understanding why it's funny, and yet it keeps on coming relentlessly. The ridiculousness of life, the ridiculousness of trying to find happiness. Grandchildren apparently are happiness. I don't know. I don't have grandchildren. I actually have very little prospect of grandchildren. I have 3 children, and they all seem to be off on different non-child rearing courses. And how I ever got to this point, if you knew me as a young man, you would wonder that I ever managed to reproduce. And so the fact that somebody would make a movie out of me, it would have to be a farce. It would have to be a slapstick comedy. That's all I can imagine, Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you, David. All righty, let's see. Let's look at the future. How will your life be different 1 year from now, or 5 years from now, if you prefer? But sometime in the future, pick a date. How will your life be different? Toru.
I think you're muted, Toru. Oh, there we go.
All right. 1 year from now, I'll be 1 year older than today. And 5 years, the same would happen to me. And I think my earnest desire is to live until then. 1 year from now, I want to be alive. And 5 years from now, also be alive. But not only be alive, but also be positively and energetically alive, doing what I want to do, which is the rest of the day, what I want to do is to fulfill my ability as a writer and creator, and including the speech making in this meeting. And in conclusion, I want to do what I want to do for the rest of my life, and that's all. Alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Toru. Thank you. All righty, let's move on. Let's see. Anupama talked about mentors. So the question would be, who if you had all of history to choose from, any person living or dead, who would you like to be your life mentor? Well, Anupama.
It's amazing when you dream about your future or dream about what if, and you realize you are in your what if. I have my mentor, John Maxwell, and he is a leadership expert. I don't think I would choose anybody else. I believe that he knows how to lead by influence, how to become a servant leader because he's one. And the best part is all his leadership lessons are from my favorite book, the Bible. He has picked those lessons from the Bible and told us and shown us in 85 books how to lead better, how to communicate and connect better, and how to become an influencer, how to influence the influencers. And that is something that I wanted to do, and I was thriving and craving and trying to find out how. So I would say I have the best mentor, and I would not choose anybody else. Back to you, the Toastmaster.
Thank you, Anupama. All righty. Speaking of famous people, which I was a little bit there, asking about all of history kind of things, Robin Williams is famous for his humor. Einstein is famous for his genius. Mother Teresa was famous for her compassion for the poor. What would you like to be famous for? What would you like to be known for? Sarah. Are you there? Ah.
Thank you, Topics Master Jim Barber. What I would like to be famous for is for having compassion and also for being a genuine, true person. I think as we see so much in life today, we see people who maybe want to be what other people want them to be, or they say what they think other people want them to say. And sometimes we lose how to be ourselves and how to project the things that are important to us. And so I would like to be known for that I was an authentic person, I was a compassionate person, and that I worked at helping others or really encouraging others to be themselves and also to be happy with the things that, are a part of their lives. I am always amazed by various people. You hear all kinds of stories about how people give of themselves and how they make the world a better place just for doing that. And so that's what I would like to do, just to be compassionate, authentic, and empathetic. Back to you, Jim.
Excellent, Sarah. I hope it happens. I hope it comes true. Okay. It's said, look before you leap, but it's also said that he who hesitates is lost. So which one is true? Look before you leap, or he who hesitates is lost? And how do you, if one or both are true, how do you reconcile them? Louise.
I think you reconcile them based on the context. If I'm in South Florida and there's a lake, I better look before I leap, because there's a fair chance there's an alligator or a Burmese python or a serial killer or Florida man hiding in that lake somewhere. People always ask me, what TV shows I watch, what movies I watch. Forget TV and movies. Watch the local news. And if you're not from South Florida, find Channel 7, and you will just see a collection of humanity unlike any other. Strange, bizarre, scary, every genre is there. So because I value my life and live in South Florida and drive on I-95, I'm going to look, because no one else will do it. And I used to ride motorcycles. People don't pay attention to motorcycles. Mm-hmm. They will kill you and then continue on with their commute without stopping. And, I think if you're going to kill somebody, at least have the decency to, check them out. Maybe you could save them. There's always a chance. But that's not the world we live in. So maybe if I lived in, a beautiful meadow and woke up and Walt Disney painted my environment, maybe I could throw caution to the wind. But I'm in a midpoint of my life, and I would like to have some more years and decades, and I'm going to be cautious and smart. And if I miss out on an opportunity or two, that's okay. I'm not getting killed by a shark, a whale, an alligator. And that's cool. I did my thing.
Excellent.
Cool. Thank you, Louise. Okay, I threatened that I would call on someone twice. However, Evie has indicated that she would like to do a little bit of talking at the end of the meeting. So I'm just going to finish up table topics right now. Sarah, how did everybody do time-wise? Were they within time?
Everybody was within time.
Excellent, thank you. Would you please cast your votes for your favorite table topics presenter? And if you haven't done so already, please pass your vote for the better speaker this evening to both of those, to Andy Byrne, our vote counter. And with that, I return control to our Toastmaster of the day, David Carr.
We didn't have our evaluations, did we?
Well,
I was figuring David would pass it on to the general evaluator.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
We'll have evaluations next.
Okay, sorry.
In just a moment. But we learned this evening that Louise is living in a Carl Hiaasen novel. He's just waiting for that guy with the alligator in his pants to hold up the store in front of him. And you do have to watch out in South Florida. Maybe North Florida is okay, Marianne, but you might be insulated a little bit by being that much more distant from Miami.
I do have alligators in the lake behind my house.
But do people put them in their pants and try and hold up stores there? I don't know. Maybe on the way to the Waffle House, things could happen. Anyway, it is now time for the evaluations portion of our meeting, and Marianne, who we're just checking with on the condition of alligators in her neighborhood, will be leading us as our general evaluator. Marianne.
Hi, everybody. I am your general evaluator, and what I will be doing tonight is facilitating the evaluation portion of the meeting. Evaluation is our gift of feedback, and I think it's the part of the meeting where we learn the most. Even if the evaluation is not coming directly to us, hearing it, I really think I've learned so much during this portion of the meeting. So I hope you'll tune in. And our first evaluator tonight is Mr. Toru Moriyama, and he's going to be evaluating Anupama's speech called The Power of Mentoring. Please welcome Toru.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Kinatukara, for your wonderful presentation. I would like to raise 4 excellent points and 1 humble suggestion. First, your presentation was in line with the purpose of the project, which aims to define how you envision mentoring by discussing the experience as a protege and also as a mentor. She did exactly what was required. Second, your story as a protege and as a mentor was very intriguing and educational. I like particularly the episode that your mentor who have elevated you to a champion level professional speaker in the Toastmasters. It was a very powerful presentation. And third, your proposition about how to be a better mentor. You showed and imagined the ideal way of a mentor based on your own experience. And because you talked with a humor, it was persuasive and easy to digest. And fourth, you have succeeded in giving us a practical and achievable advice about how to be a good mentor. And in that way, you envisioned mentoring positively. Now let me turn to the area of improvement about your visual aid. They are fine and helped the listeners to understand the contents of your presentation better and deeper. But it seems to me that there are too many. It would be better, I think, to simplify them because the main character is you. And don't let the visual aid hinder your oral and visual presentation. In summary, your speech was not only powerful, but also persuasive and presented thoroughly and meticulously the importance of mentoring in the Toastmasters. And overall, the speech was excellent and made us feel listen more. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a wonderful evaluation, Taru. Now, next up was supposed to be Joni Laidlaw, and she is not here this evening. So I am going to conduct a round robin evaluation of Luis's speech. So I'm hoping that you'll all put your hand up and put your 2 cents in because he is trying to polish this speech to compete. So anyone, your feedback is welcome. And if you can put up your hand, I will call on you. And at the end, if things that were not captured in the round robin, I have a little evaluation written up here. So anyone who wants to start, Jim Barber.
Louise, I've evaluated you before, so I may be repeating myself, but there were many, many things, of course, that I enjoyed about your presentation. They were all top notch. The best thing, though, that I think that you do is your use of the pause. You are a master at knowing when not to say something. And for example, you were just talking and then you paused and then you said, and then it hit me. That was so nicely done. You set up anticipation with the pause and then it hit me. I love that. Your use of the pause is terrific. That's my feedback.
Thank you, sir. Evie.
Okay, Louise, I know you are trying to do this for a competition, so I am going to up the ante a little bit on this mini evaluation and kind of evaluate as if I was watching a YouTube video. I'm going to mention some technical things. I would want to see more lighting on your face. Right now I can really see your background. You would probably already think of this if you were taking this to a competition, but I want to point that out. And oh my gosh, I love your use of metaphors. That was amazing. And I'm going to mention that in my grammarian deal, but I had to put that in there. something that kind of stuck out to me is I I was trying to figure out during your speech if the concept of being second place and people's reaction to it, like there's some parts that were good and some parts that were not so good, like still being immature and having that immature reaction toward competitors, like that's bad, right? But you know, carrying something with you that's going to motivate you further, that's good, right? So I would love in that particular speech to hear that separation between those concepts of letting being second place take you down a negative path versus what you have to do to make sure it takes you down a positive one. That's what I would want to hear in a competition speech. And that's all I've got. Thank you so much. It was amazing.
Do we have anyone else? David?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention was I did hear from Joni. Apparently there was a power failure, there was an internet failure, there was a crisis of some sort. So she did not mean to miss this. Louise, I've heard this speech before, or at least I've heard the core story before from you, I think, about the boxing. No?
I've given boxing stories before, but not that story and not this speech. So I just like boxing.
All right. Well, I apologize. I'm mistaken then, because I was just going to ask how you're trying to develop this story differently.
So I'll answer the question, David. So one thing that I wanted out of this speech is for people to be able to take different things. Generally in a contest speech, the speaker tells you what the message is. Never stop trying, get up, forget the past. I think that the title of the speech, The Silver Weighs More, is a little bit nebulous. And so you would have different reactions from different people. For example, I quit baseball. I never played baseball again. I don't later tell you that I became a baseball coach and, won the state championship, because it's a lie and that's not the point of the speech. But there's also stories of people who placed second and were fueled to greatness. So it was purposefully a little bit mysterious, but maybe I should clarify it more.
No, that really wasn't the criticism. I was just curious about why you were revisiting, because I thought it was the same speech in a new version of it that you were, and there's actually nothing wrong with that. I think some of the world champions have gone back to a speech several times before they got to be world champions.
Evie, did you want to say something?
I already talked. I guess I think it's valid to and interesting for you to want to for you to want people to be able to take multiple messages from it. But I think for people to get there and not be confused, I think maybe an invitation to take what messages, like some kind of invitation for the listener to take what messages seem most important to them from your speech spoken would be helpful.
Do we have anyone else?
I mean, I actually thought the holding, the message was fairly clear with the holding up of the medal at the end of the personal meaning of the speech. It's probably
okay. Well, Jim.
Just a little tiny technical thing, Louise, but if you're going to be presenting on camera, if it's going, as opposed to in person, if you're going to be doing hybrid or something like that, your background is of course a little busy, but it's not really a problem. I like it, except that you have the graduate over your shoulder, and unfortunately a written word tends to draw the eye. So there's not a problem with anything else in the background, but that one thing is a little bit distracting. I would get rid of that for a contest.
Jim, I'm impressed you caught that. That poster's pretty far back. Those are good eyes you have there.
I saw it too. Louise, I'm gonna just give you my evaluation. I think that you are a masterful storyteller, and I really enjoyed the stories that you shared with us. The one thing though is I thought you spent a lot of time on the boxer story, and I understand now that you like boxing, but I think that could be tightened up a little bit more and then focus a little bit on that lesson right before you do your finish. When I think, let me see. Let's see, because I felt like you said, you were ambiguous with the lesson, but I do think the why is important. So why did these three stories relate? Oh, and the other thing was, I thought you related the first two stories like the same exact way, like this happened and then, they wanted to quit. And you didn't really say Al Gore wanted to quit, but you didn't tie it the same way. So usually if you're trying to be weaving a story together, you have that one thing that is the line. So you said it after the first one, you said it after the second one, but you didn't say it after the third one. I think that would give it a little more congruency. But I did think this was great, but I do think you need to just spend a little more on the time. And just for your information, your time was 7:30. You are on the button, man. You got to shorten that up, because when you give a speech at a contest level, you could be having people applauding or laughing, doing things like that in your speech, which can take away from your time and add seconds onto your time. So you don't want to be on the button. I would say don't go beyond like 7:05 with your actual words, because it may stretch out during your actual speech. But that's all I have for you on that today. But I really did enjoy it, and I will get the more formal version of that out to you via email. I have your contact information.
Thank you.
But thank you for coming and delivering that to us. Okay, now next up we have our counter grammarian, Evie Hartman. She has stepped up. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I've actually never been off counter before in this club. I guess I already said that, but anyway, David. Oh, that's 2 for Evie. 3, 4. God, I need to stop. David, you had about 4 or 5. Annapuma, you had 0. Louise, you had 1 but I think it was on purpose. I wasn't sure. Karthika, you get a pass. I spilled my water and had to take my headphones off for a second. So I didn't count any of yours. Congratulations. Toru, you had 0. Sarah and Marianne, you had 0 that I caught, and I did not catch any from anybody else. So that is the counters report. For the grammarians report, oh my goodness, there were so many good things. I only wrote down a few of them, and because I was so enraptured by a lot of this meeting, because they're like a lot of table topics. I love watching table topics, and I really love both speeches. Louise, I loved when you said out swags. Like that was the first. I laughed out loud. And then obviously you had that section where you talked about like when you said he was still 19 years old. I got chills. Like, and that wasn't the first or the last time I got chills during your speech, but that was the highlight of the chills. He was still fighting for the respect he never got. Amazing. And then your table topic where you shouted out Florida man and talked about all the ways to die. That was great too. That's all I wrote down. But generally fantastic table topics. I really, really enjoyed listening to them so much that I didn't write much down. So that's a compliment for me. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Superb. Thank you so much, Evie. Now, Karthika, she has agreed to be our watcher tonight.
This is my first time being a watcher in this online presenters club. Now I understand the meaning of why we need a watcher. We need to observe human beings. Maybe you might not be a pitch person. Still, you might be empathetic to understand others in a better way and connect them. And that's where I'm here, to watch everybody, to see their inner emotions flowing out when there was an evaluation or when there was a speech which needs to be delivered. From my point of view, today's meeting was great with the framing, aspect ratio, and the placement of ourselves in front of the camera. apart from being visually appealing, of us being visually appealing, we also have our backgrounds to be perfectly pitching with the today's theme, as well as we were dwelling. Most of us are being perfectly pitched with today's theme, and we were dwelling with the theme and traveling along as successful Toastmasters. To highlight, the gentle evaluator, Miriam Grady's background is super cool. I love it. I seriously love it. And I would like to see much more of such kinds to be coming up in our Toastmaster Club. Over to you, Miriam Grady.
Thank you so much. And again, I appreciate you stepping up as well. Let's see, chat monitor, Jim, we're pressed for time, so make it short, please.
I will do that, Madam GE, in the interests of time. It's short. The only thing really that was of great note in the chat is David's link to the club's WhatsApp app. And if you don't have that, please check that out. But in the meantime, it's easy to do. Just be sure that you save the chat. You're not wasting electrons and that you have everything. Back to you, Madam GE.
And guests are welcome to join the group too, but then you have to join the club. That's
Sarah, I believe we have your report in the chat. Is that good? Or did you have anything to add?
I said, no, that's good. Everybody was within time.
Okay, thank you. And I will forego the whole meeting evaluation. It was a good meeting. I was very happy to see, and I was very pleased that so many of you did double duty and stepped up when I needed you to fill gaps. But Evie, I'm really right on board with you about getting that agenda filled out well in advance, so we don't have to deal with that, because it does make it a little more challenging. But one more thing, Luis, I wanted to say to you was when you are giving your speech, you are not looking directly in the camera. You are looking towards it, which is kind of like this, but not at it like this. And there's a difference. So you might want to pay attention to that. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster, and you can call for the votes.
all right. Why don't I call for the votes or vote counter? Who won the things that were available to win tonight?
All right, for those that actually voted, we have for the speaker, the winner is Anna Puma. She's the speaker, that's the winner. For table topics, this was tough because people spread it out all over the place. But again, we have Anna Puma got the greatest number of hits. We're gonna go for a triple crown here soon. Evaluators, we had Turo getting the strongest evaluation impression from the voters of the club. So that's what we have. Back to you.
All right. Well, I believe that concludes my duties for the evening. I should turn it to our presiding officer, Evie Hartman, to close us out.
All right, everyone. So thank you so much for a wonderful meeting. Thank you for being here. And thank you so much to our guest speakers. They were both amazing speeches, as we've all said, and I really hope to have you back again. So this term, I'm going to go ahead and use this opportunity to talk a little bit, as I mentioned, since the president isn't here, the VPE will play. So this term, I'm looking forward to helping all of you meet your speaking goals. And to that end, I wanted to give everybody a heads up that I'm going to be taking a very proactive role in getting the schedule filled. The biggest part of my plan, which is a strategy I borrowed from my VPE role in a former club that worked really, really well, is to schedule speakers approximately 8 weeks out. This worked so well in my last club that one of my first acts as president was to temporarily increase the speaking slots from 3 to 4. It didn't last more than a couple months, but we had so many people that were like, the culture was you are speaking every this amount of time. And I really would like that culture to be a part of this club. It helps me, it helps everyone. And basically, scheduling 8 weeks out means a few things. If you're an active member of the club, you're definitely going to get at least one speaking slot within the next 2 months, maybe more than that, probably more than that if you're really motivated. And you can pick your own dates or let me generate them for you, and you'll have plenty of time to know if I scheduled you on a week that doesn't work for you. And if you definitely need to bow out in the week leading up to your speech, I will enlist you to help me find a replacement for you. But don't be intimidated, because there are pathway projects that involve impromptu speaking. I didn't actually know that until this past week. I'm actually going to be getting with Joni because she's an expert on pathways, and I admittedly am not, but I'm going to be in the next week. But there are impromptu speaking projects and pathways, and if you find yourself drawing a blank for when you are scheduled, just shoot me a message and I will hook you up with one of them and we'll make it work. I just want to get you up on that virtual stage, get you behind that virtual lectern. I want you to be up here speaking. So yeah, please let me know if there are any dates that don't work for you, or if there are dates that you would really like to speak. Please tell me. Please also tell me if there are things about the website or anything that we can do to improve your experience with knowing where the schedule is and stuff like that. I'm actually going to be working with David to not only make sure I know exactly how everything works, but there are, we'll get together and figure out anything that is confusing for you. I really, really want to get to the bottom of anything that's confusing. There are also a couple other things I won't spend too much time on, but in the future, there are a couple more things I'd like to do. A tech development committee, like I mentioned earlier in the meeting. There are a lot of people in this club who are really good at certain things. No one's amazing at absolutely everything that has to do with speaking, unless you have a YouTube channel or something like that. And there are people in here who do. So I would really like to get some people together who can offer their skills to help people improve various parts of their speaking, such as green screens, microphones, and whatnot. And I'd really like to have like a membership program. I really would love everyone in this club to have a mentor. I'd really like to lean into that. I wanted to before Anupama's beautiful speech, and now I want to even more. So let's do that. I believe in us. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you so much. And I guess it's my role to go ahead and close out the meeting.
Can we take a picture?
I would love to take a picture.
And they're not guests in the
Yeah.
traditional sense of the word, but maybe you'd like to ask our guests what they
That's
thought of the
right.
meeting.
Sorry, it's been a while since I've been a president. Okay, our guests, what did you think of Online Presenters Toastmasters? Let's go with Anupama first.
I enjoyed it. It was great to see folks from Japan, from India, from all over US. I think it's great to have people from different places because you get a diverse audience. I would say I was looking for some post about this meeting and guest speakers, which I missed, and I posted myself. So that might be something that would bring in more people, especially when you have guest speakers. Hey, this person is speaking, and otherwise, I was thrilled to be coming here. And even though I couldn't be part of the contest, it was great to be a guest speaker.
That's great feedback. Thank you so much. We'll get with our VPPR on that. All right. And Luis, the guy who let us get all nitpicky about his speech, thank you so much. I hope that was helpful. What did you think of the meeting?
I thought the meeting was cool. I'm not a great fan generally of Zoom meetings. I did 2 years of them at work and also in Toastmasters. And so I was quite happy to go back in person. But much like eating my vegetables, it's good for me, even if I don't necessarily like it. And I'll keep up with the broccoli, and I'll work on the lighting. And
Well, part of the theory behind the club is that there's sort of a separate set of skills that
Oh,
are
yeah.
worth learning and getting good at.
I agree. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gracious that you had me speak. I came to another meeting too, the one with it was a contest, a webinar
contest. Yep.
That was really cool. It was interesting. I like that people are from all over, and also that I don't have to brave I-95 to get to this club.
Yeah.
So Louise, I am, or Louis, I'm not sure how you say your name. I am the VP membership. I had an unfortunate thing happen, so I missed the meeting, but you had expressed an interest in maybe joining or doing a prospective member speech. Are you
Yes,
still interested?
I was thinking about it, and I don't know if this would count as my prospective member speech.
Oh, heck yeah.
The prospective member speech is only if somebody doesn't qualify. Like if we've had people join who had never been in Toastmasters, but who had
Yeah.
other speaking
I had been, but
experience.
so I had to do a prospective member speech because I didn't meet the criteria of having done 6 Toastmasters speech which I had, but it was back in the 80s. And so I had to do one, but you're a DTM already, right? Oh, no. Okay.
Well,
He's just that good.
I've given more than 6 speeches, but
That's okay. I'm not a DTM either, and they let me in.
He's given approximately a bazillion speeches and been a district contest winner. I think he qualifies.
I think
It's
so.
just a matter of whether if you want
Okay.
to come in, you're in.
So
Yeah.
I will send you the qualifications. Basically all you need to do is send me an email saying that you'd like to be a member and list your Toastmasters experience. Then we just send out an email vote by the current membership, which you'll get all yeses, and then you can join.
okay.
Awesome.
All
That's
right.
great to hear.
Can I ask everyone to give a smile because some eyes were closed on this
that's right.
picture, so I want to make sure we get a good picture.
All right.
All right, ready, 1, 2, and awesome. Thank you very much. I love pictures, as you
Thank
can
you for
see.
taking it.
All right.
Thank you for taking it.
All right.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and move to close the meeting for tonight.
All right.
Do you have the stuff set up
Everybody.
for next week?
That's important too. I will get